Do you invest in retirement annuities, endowments, unit trust, preservation funds, provident funds, pension funds? And when you chose one of them, where do you invest it? Balance funds, index funds, cash, bonds, property, equity, local, offshore? Damn, that is so exhausting. I can only imagine how you as the consumer must feel. I think the investment and financial industry makes this 10 times harder than what it should be. Now, my aim today is to give you a structure where the junior has just suited up for high school, going to university, or perhaps you approaching your golden years. This structure of investing is for everybody. This is episode 3 of 4 of my series called The Roadmap to Your Financial Freedom. Now, when I started this episode, I thought to myself, what can I actually do just to give a more human element to this? And I asked 10 of my clients to answer basically 2 questions for me. What would you like to know about investments? And when you invest, what is it that you hope to achieve? Now, seemingly not unexpected, all 10 of those answers varied. The reason for that is, and it's testimony to the fact that all people have different needs. People are at different stages in their life. But one voice note stood out for me, and with permission of the client, I'm actually going to play this voice note to you.
So my question is always going to be around how can I invest today to improve my life tomorrow? And by tomorrow, I mean 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, because I think you're speaking to such a broad audience from, like I said, my daughter who's 20 right through to your older clientele. And we are all in such different stages of our lives. But the one thing that I think all of us want to think about is financial intelligence. And I talk about your services. I'm saying to people, do you have all your financial stuff in place? If you are investing, are you investing with someone that's got your best interests in mind and is giving you solutions based on you, the person? And I think it speaks volumes for what's happening now with COVID, where we're seeing a lot of people who are starting to realize they don't have these passive incomes, or they don't have little nest eggs put away, or they don't have little investments put away that they could have been tapping into now, where they need them for the finances. I mean, everything you're talking about is about reducing your expenditures so that the money you earn, the salary you earn is actually money that you can enjoy. So it comes back to what I'm saying. I want to do things with my money that's going to allow me to enjoy my life now, all the while I am also catering for my retirement. But I'm living today, and that's what's important to me. It's a rainy day fund, but it's also a enjoy your life fund. But I can't do any of those things until I'm financially intelligent, and that's what I use you for.
I think that summarizes the human psychology. We all think about one day, but we all have immediate needs that, if done wrong, that can take priority over the long-term need. So, in my opinion, my job here is to build a structure that not only satisfies the long-term need, but also our short and medium-term needs. In an ideal world, we can do planning and say, you know what, Junior is going to university in 5 years' time. I've done my math, I need about X amount, so I'll just put 3,000 Rand away for that. But also, I have to think of my retirement. I see the shortfall is about 6,500 Rand, so fantastic. Let me just do that. There's 6,500 Rand towards that shortfall. And oh, by the way, I work extremely hard, so I need to satisfy myself in the form of an overseas holiday in the next year or two. So, you know what? There's 2,500 Rand a month for that. If that was only reality. I don't know if that's your reality, but that's definitely not mine. So once again, let's get into that structure to see how we can satisfy all these needs. Just like every finish line has a starting line, this structure needs to start somewhere. So my recommendation is you start with all your retirement vehicles. Now that could be a retirement annuity you have in your own name, or your pension and provident fund you have via the company. Now, as I say that, I can already see some people's eyes rolling to the back of the head, because usually people say, why do you want to tie up my money till I'm 55 or 65 or when I retire? But let me tell you why. Because the biggest asset manager in the world, in other words, they've got the most funds under management, is a company called BlackRock. Now, BlackRock some years ago released an article saying that retirement globally, so not only in America or here, globally, is the one crisis nobody can solve. Now, that's pretty intimidating coming from the company that manages the most money in the world. But truth be told, we as South Africans, we've got a massive problem in that line as well, because only 6% of South Africans can actually retire comfortably. Now, I don't know about you, but if my child one day has to bring me a math test and there's a 6% mark on that, I know what's going to happen to him that evening. But the one solution is that you start as early as possible. But now I know some people are going to think, I'm already late to this party. That's okay, because in this video, I'm going to show you not only how you satisfy the short-term, medium-term needs, but also if you get to the long-term need, how you can maximize on that. So I'm not leaving you in the dark there. So back to my point. So why retirement annuities? Why pension funds? Why provident funds? They all have two traits in common, which if used correctly is probably the most powerful tool you have in investments. So first of all your growth up until retirement, completely tax-free. That is fantastic. Trait number 2, all your contributions towards retirement is seen as a tax deductible. Now, not to get over technical, but what this means is if I earn 100,000 Rand a year, okay, and I invest 20,000 Rand towards any of those retirement vehicles, they are going to naturally tax me on 100,000. But now, seeing that I invested 20,000 into retirement, they're going to take my 100,000 minus the 20,000 that I've contributed into retirement, and they are only going to tax me on the 80,000 Rand, meaning I've got a tax saving. How will you receive it, you may ask? It's down to how your package is structured, your salary, in other words, at work. Either you'll receive that benefit on a monthly basis, you should just be aware of that then so that you incorporate it into your budget. Or alternatively, if you've paid the tax on the full 100,000, SARS will reimburse you that money in the form of a lump sum. The point of this episode is not to get too technical with figures, but say Johnny earns 650,000 Rand a year and he saves 10% of his salary in a provident fund combined with a 2,500 Rand retirement annuity. For the year, Johnny saved 95,000 Rand into retirement. This means he has a tax saving of roughly 37,000 Rand a year. Once again, he will either receive this on a monthly or annually basis. So what are his options? He can renovate the home or buy something unnecessary. Alternatively, he can put this money to good use. Let's pretend Johnny has a son that's 10 years old. He has yet to save anything for tertiary studies. If he takes the 37,000 and invests it in a unit trust for the next 8 years, with some growth, he could easily have in excess of 300,000 Rand for studies. If he didn't have a child and traveling was a priority, let's call that a short-term need. 37,000 is a decent vacation for one person. Let's say he was 55 and fast approaching retirement. He could reinvest 37,000 into his retirement or a tax-free savings to not tie up all his money and easily add over 500,000 Rand in his retirement fund. If he still had debt left, he could utilize this to pay debt off sooner. He could pay a house worth 1 million Rand off 49% sooner, also saving him 300,000 Rand in interest. Back to you in the studio, Marnus. So what's my point? By investing in retirement early, you make sure you don't form part of the stat that you can't retire comfortably. But second of all, by making use of the, call it tax refunds, you are satisfying your medium and short-term needs. In other words, you're ticking all the boxes by using exactly the same money. All you need is a simple, executable structure. I wish I could tell you a structure alone will make ends meet. Unfortunately, it won't cut it. We all have existing investments and planning to make new ones. And we need to look at how to improve them, although they might be in that structure, and that's good, that's the start. But now we need to look at the next stage and how to improve what we have. And I always say that you need to be able to control what is actually controllable. So, for example, what happens in the market, that's uncontrollable. We have no say in what happens tomorrow. We have no prior knowledge to what happens tomorrow. But what is under our control within our investments are the fees we pay towards them. Now, in my career of call it 7 years, I have not yet met one person that could tell me what fees they pay for their investments. And quite frankly, I don't blame you, because it's hidden in a 7,000 page policy document. And quite frankly, it only became mandatory for companies to display fees in 2016. So everybody investing up until 2016 had no clue what fees they pay for investments. So let's look at the effect fees has on them. On average, South Africans pay 3% for their investments. At face value, you might reckon that's not a lot, but let me show you the massive difference even 1% can make. Saving 1% can mean as much as 32% more money in retirement. Some investors reckon 1% wipes out 10 years of your retirement. In Johnny's example, if he were to invest for 30 years, 1% is a difference of 785,000 Rand in today's money. It also means that he only kept 63% of the entire investment. 37% was eaten by fees. That's some horrific numbers, eh? And it made me think of the saying that says, knowledge holds extreme power, but only if you act upon it. So what are you as the investor going to do about this? Well, there's probably 10 or 20 things that you can do to lessen your fees. Let me give you 2 practical examples that you can actually implement right away. The first piece of advice, stop paying asset managers excessive amounts of fees. Now, some people find comfort in the big name brands. That's just all across the board, not even with investments. That could always be the case. Now, I'm all for it, paying something and receiving quality in return. That's how the world works. But the whole existence of an asset manager is to try and outperform the market. And for that, they charge you as the investor a fee. Now, only if they were doing that, it would justify the fee, right? I'll be happy to outperform the market and pay for it. But the problem is only 39% of asset managers actually outperform the market. So if I were to take this coin and ask you there at home to pick heads or tails, it's actually tails, I hope you're right. But you had a 50% of success right there. As I said, you only have a 39% chance of picking the right balance fund. The problem is there's over 100 balance funds. So who do you choose? Do you pick today's winner because he's probably going to be tomorrow's loser? Do you pick today's loser, but there's no guarantee that he's going to be tomorrow's winner? It's tough. Just take all of that out. Pick an index fund. An index fund comes at a price of 0.5%. It could even be lower. Now, what an index fund essentially does is it helps you own bits and pieces of the market at a fraction of the cost. But my suggestion would be for you to sit with your financial advisor in order for them to choose the correct index funds that applies to your specific need. But speak of the devil, when last did you hear from your financial advisor? If you have to go like this and think about it, it's too long ago. The problem with this is, and the reason why I'm asking you that question is, you could easily be paying from 0.5% up until 1.25% each and every year to your financial advisor. Now, even if that person has left the company, many times what they do is they still take that fee, charge you for that fee, and it goes to the brokerage where the advisor came from. Now there's really no sense in paying anybody for that. So cut it. There's no real need paying this 1% over to somebody, cutting your time with 10 years short, almost spending R1 million on this person, and he doesn't even work for the company anymore, or he doesn't regularly review your investment. So guys, I showed you 2 ways that you can actually cut 1 to 2% of your investment right now. So act on it. As I said, knowledge is only power when you actually act upon it. I would love to hear how your structure and your fees measure up to this. And if you have creative ways of maximizing your investments, please be so kind to share them with me. You're never too old to learn or too knowledgeable to learn something new. But catch me in the final episode. That would be episode number 4, where I will be piecing all this together. So in other words, we would look at a scenario starting with episode 1 again, ending up with episode 3 of how to practically implement everything. Because if you could see the value, it creates purpose, and purpose will definitely get you onto the roadmap to your financial freedom. This is the Pursuit of Moneyness, and I'm Marnus Mostert. The biggest compliment you can actually give me is by sharing this with your friends, family, and loved ones. If you haven't already liked the pages on social, please go and do so. And remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you once again. I can't wait to piece everything together in episode 4.